We're speaking with Phil Costner, chef, operations leader, and highly respected industry veteran who has now set his sights on La Madeleine. Stay tuned for the next in our series of Leaders with Guts. How and when do you know it's time for a menu change or an addition? What are the variables that you look at?
We plan on 2 menu changes every year, and that's just a plan going into every year, just so we're on top of it, we're thinking about it, and we're always fresh or refreshing along the way. But as far as making a significant change in the menu, I think you know it's time when products start falling off, when certain things don't sell as well as they have been selling, or when your guests tell you by maybe not even showing up, or not showing up as often, or eating in a different manner. Now, which is to say, if the trend tomorrow goes to Thai barbecue, let's just say it goes to Thai barbecue, you won't see La Madeleine following that trend. So those are, it's almost easier to answer that question by saying, when do you know it's not time? We don't follow trends that are not conducive to the country French heritage of the brand. So we don't make wholesale changes. We don't make huge, vast changes. We use our LTO process, the limited time offer process, as the litmus test for our new products. And we do a lot of research up front. We'll run those for a 6 to 8 week period of time. If they do better than we expect them to do, if they do especially well, if they surprise us, and there's a few examples of those I can share with you, then they make the permanent menu. It's kind of a maturation process. A few examples of that would be our Slim line, our Smart Choice line, the mini desserts, and our flatbreads. All of those started as an LTO. All of those performed exceptionally well. And so that signals the time for saying, well, then you know what, the next time we print, we've got to get these on. We've got to create a category here. Because again, Amanda has told us, I love these. So let's not take those away. Let's give her what she wants.
And how do you keep food costs in line at La Madeleine?
We're kind of unique in that we're small, but we think on a much larger basis than some people might think we do. We follow commodities voraciously. Dan Fitzpatrick heads up our purchasing division, and Dan is a self-made commodities expert. He's got a very robust process against following. Our process involves about an 18-month run rate of where certain commodities have been, or our core products have been, and we forecast where they're headed. And in using that tool and robust discussion between the CFO, myself, and Dan, we decide what we're going to lock into, what markets we're going to ride, how far out we should be thinking about buying, what risks we're willing to take. So that's one way we do it. Another way we do it is through our prototypes that we just built. We display a tremendous amount of food, and we're sticklers, like some other companies are. We're sticklers on shelf lives, and so there's planned obsolescence in our breads and some of our pastries and some of our hot plate items. So we're working on designing a new prototypical store that enables us to display and to show abundance without throwing away a lot of product.
And what are your best-selling menu items?
Well, the chicken Caesar salad is a huge seller for us, and of course our tomato basil soup. And I smile about that because you can't go anywhere in Texas or our core markets and talk about La Madeleine without having someone say, "Oh yeah, I love your tomato basil soup." So,
well, what goals have you set for yourself in the menu at La Madeleine?
The menu, the goals associated with our menu here are pretty simple. The first goal is to remain true to the brand. And again, we're the last ones you're going to see fly off on a trend, on some sort of fad or a trend that sometimes you see some of the bigger box players just chase after, and they try and be all things to all people. So we stay very true to ourselves. We're very authentic. We work very hard on creating value for our guests now, and not so much discounting. We're talking about value now. So great flavors, great value, very authentic, very country French, And if you do that, you've got a great menu.
What procedure do you go through after you create a new menu item to figure out how much you're going to charge? Is it a formula?
There's always a formula involved. I'd be lying to you, and anyone would be remiss to tell you, no, we don't use a formula. Any company worth its salt has a certain margin percentage that they're looking to hit. So it's going to start with a formula, and that's more applicable to the bench work that you do, to the development work. At the end of the day, you have to, the price of a product can only be what someone's willing to pay for it. Any more than that, it's not going to sell no matter how good it is, or you're going to have a poor value perception. And any less, you're probably leaving money on the table. And I'd rather do that than do the former than the latter. But it's really not that hard. At the end of the day, you have to be able to look at any product on your menu and say, well, what's she going to pay for that? And if her ability or willingness to pay X for a certain product is less than what the formula tells you to sell it for, then you have a decision to make. You either re-engineer the product, or you accept it as somewhat of a loss leader. Again, it goes back to, what do you want the product to do? I'll take less margin on a product if it'll drive traffic. I'll definitely do that. And so those are the discussions that we have around pricing. So unlike a lot of others in the industry, it's not a simple, straightforward formula. It either works or it doesn't. We actually come into this room and we literally put it up on the wall, and use a computer-driven tool to work through the what-ifs and figure out what the right thing to do is.
Phil, have you ever worked with any menu experts?
Oh yeah, I studied that quite a bit, and there's an art. I think there's as much art as there is science to that, and I have worked with consultancy groups to help us, especially at Universal as we were putting together our menu boards. That was a huge piece of what we did, and here we employ a balance of science and art to it. But I think that's a really interesting subject, because you can get a great debate going one way or the other. I mean, one of the best wine lists I've seen recently listed the wines from light to hearty in each category, in each varietal, and so the prices were kind of a jumble off to the side. And I thought to myself, that's kind of an interesting way to do it. Now I'm appealing to flavor, or a lot of people are saying, I don't want a big wine, I want something light tonight. Well, look at the top third, you probably get that, and then choose from the price category over there. I thought that was a really, really well done wine list.
We've been talking with Phil Costner, COO of La Madeleine. Check out the next part of this series as we explore what it takes to be a leader with guts. For Food Channel Pro, I'm Ellen Codiff.